across world. Let's take a look at some of the top stories this hour. A manhunt is underway for the killer of conservative activist and Trump ally Charlie Kirk after he was shot in front of hundreds of people at the University of Utah. Since yesterday, 2 have been arrested and subsequently released, with officials saying that they have no ties to the shooting. Poland says that the United Nations Security Council is set to meet after Russian drones reportedly violated its airspace. The announcement follows an unprecedented operation in which EU and member Poland shot down suspected Russian drones. Qatar says funerals will be held in Doha today for those killed in Israel's unprecedented strike targeting Hamas figures in the Gulf state. The Interior Ministry says prayers will take place at the Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Wahab Mosque, with burials at the Mesamir Cemetery. Qatar's Prime Minister says Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu must be brought to justice for what he calls state terrorism after a deadly airstrike in Doha. He vows Qatar will continue as a trusted mediator in the region despite Netanyahu's threats. Britain sacks its ambassador to the United States, Peter Mendelsohn, after revelations about his friendship with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Foreign Ministry says new messages show the depth and extent of Mendelsohn's ties to the late sex offender. More than 100 media groups are urging Washington not to slash the time foreign journalists and are staying in the United States, warning the move is hurting America's image abroad. They are saying President Trump's plan is reducing coverage, quality and damaging and not enhancing US global standing. Seoul says hundreds of South Korean workers detained in a massive US immigration raid are being released and are boarding buses for a charter flight home. Officials confirm the group will arrive in South Korea on Friday after President Myung assured their return. Indonesian officials say the death toll from floods in Bali has now risen to 14, with 2 people still missing in the capital of Denpasar. Over 500 residents have been evacuated to schools and mosques as rescuers search, with water levels now receding. Okay, we move to the United States for our top story of this hour, where the shooter who killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk remains unidentified and still at large. Authorities say the only one individual is believed to have fired the fatal shot from a rooftop during Kirk's event at Utah Valley University. The shooting has been described as a targeted attack on the Turning Point USA founder. 2 people who were temporarily detained in connection with the case have now been released, with officials confirming they have no current ties to the incident. The FBI and Utah Department of Public Safety continue their investigation, while a manhunt for the suspect is now underway. No arrests have yet to be made, and authorities have warned the public to remain alert as the search continues. Meanwhile, prayers are pouring in. Let's listen to some of the mourners.
I was 4 people in front of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of my greatest heroes, and I looked up to him a lot. Role model. He is a role model of mine. And the second interviewer came up and started talking about mass shootings and whatnot, and she first asked how many shootings were caused by trans people, and he said way too many, and then she asked how many shootings were by other people, and that's when he was shot.
I admire Charlie Kirk for his ability to speak with people, and he was very he wasn't so confrontational. You know, as maybe some people say, he worked with people, he talked to people, he was very opinionated, obviously. But I just liked his interviews, that he would have with students and talk to them. But I think he represented at the best of what's in our country in regards to freedom of speech, being able to speak and speak your mind. Those.
We're now joined by Jyotarth J. Bhardwaj. He's the Managing Director of the Australia Today, and he joins us live from Melbourne. Thank you very much for joining us. Jyotarth, there is no doubt this is the top story today that everyone is talking about, and this manhunt continues to go on for the suspected killer after 2 people have been arrested and then subsequently released. Kirk, as we know, was a close ally of Donald Trump. The US president has actually ordered flags nationwide to be flown at half-mast. How significant of an event is this for America's conservative movement?
It is. Charlie Kirk's organization was Turning Point USA, and I would say that this movement is a turning point in the history of USA, and American society will kind of move in different direction from here onwards, what I can see. And significantly here in Australia, today is 9/11, and 2 decades back, that was a turning point in American history. And I can see that how the leftist violence will define, and the fight against leftist violence will define American society from here onwards. It's not the question of only America. All democracies, all Western democracies probably are asking this question to themselves, that where are we going? Which direction is this sectarian politics, sectarian system of works of society is taking them, where there are divisions, where there are colors, where there are people who are being divided on the lines of what Charlie Kirk used to say, diverting from the open society, diverting from the freedom of speech. I mean, I have not seen any person who was more engaging towards the opponent of his views. Probably is a sad day for America, sad day for Western democracies.
Yes, Jyotarth, of course Charlie Kirk made his name and most of his fame online, where he would debate college students and people many of the time with opposing views to him. However, what we're seeing online now is quite aggravating language from both sides of the political spectrum. Do we believe that there is going to be possible fallout due to this assassination?
There is always fallout after such an incident. I will be very wary of things in coming days and weeks. There are a number of people and some very prominent people who have been celebrating this heinous act of violence. There are people, very respectable people, who are saying that there will be revenge of this act of violence. So on both spectrum, whether it's left or right, American president and the governors have to manage this situation. It should not go out of hand. We should not be seeing violence on the streets. We should not be seeing people killing just because they have different views. So I'm very scared right now what is going to happen. God forbid it should not end up in mass violence in American cities. It will be very unfortunate.
Okay, Jyotarth J. Bhardwaj, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme, and thank you very much for taking the time. We will, of course, bring you all the updates in regards to that developing story in regards to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We now move over to Europe, where the drone incursions in the Polish airspace have invoked sharp response from European leaders. In a collective statement from foreign ministers of Poland, Ukraine and Lithuania, they have all stated that only adequate and strong responses could prevent further escalations. They accused that the intrusion of drones into Polish airspace was a deliberate and coordinated strike by Russia. These countries have called on other partners to urgently strengthen Ukraine's air defences and to support Lithuania and Poland in their efforts to secure the eastern flank of NATO and the European Union. Meanwhile, Polish President Karol Nawrocki has issued a statement saying that the drone incursions were nothing more than an attempt to test NATO's capabilities to react. Let's listen in to what the Polish president had to say.
Ta rosyjska prowokacja, jak panowie generałowie i nasi żołnierze doskonale zdają sobie sprawę, była niczym więcej tylko próbą testowania naszych zdolności. Zdolności reagowania, także polityków, prezydenta Polski, premiera Polski, na to, co się dzieje we współczesności, co się dzieje dzisiaj. Była próbą i prowokacją sprawdzenia mechanizmu działania w ramach Sojuszu Północnoatlantyckiego i naszej gotowości.
Okay, we're now joined by Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at the Hudson Institute and he joins us live from Tokyo in Japan. Dr. Nagao, these three countries, Poland, Lithuania and Ukraine, have accused Russia of a deliberate act and a coordinated strike into this Polish airspace instance. Do you think that they have credible enough evidence to support this?
Yes, because 19 drones violate the air of the Poland means that this is not the accident, this is intended operation. So that's why it's a matter. But in case of Russia, even if the peacetime, the Russia violates the air is one kind of the common. Indeed, this is not Europe. In case of Japan, Russian airplane, military planes violate Japanese territorial air repeatedly to check the reaction of Japan. Reaction is military reaction in this case. If the fighter jets cover this area and repeatedly come to that places, this is enough level of the defense as deployed. But in some case, even if the Russian plane enters the territorial air, radar system lacks capability to check that area, and the Russian airplane can find the route to penetrate Japan's air defense system. So that's why even if the peacetime repeatedly Russia's military plane enters the area of territorial air of Japan. So if the similar situation could happen, of course it will not surprise, because in area of the Poland and NATO, it is true that there is a possibility the military conflict could happen. So that's why where is enough level of the defense, that is important. But at the same time, that timing and they are talking to how to secure the Ukraine after the ceasefire agreement that happened between Russia and Ukraine. So at that timing, the Russia used the same method. It looks like there is no problem. That is the political message, I believe. Because in the peacetime, of course, they did the same in many places, but at the same time, this is not just a peacetime. So making the pressure towards NATO itself is one part of the negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. there is a possibility that if the NATO's reaction was a very unorganized one, of course Russia can say Russia is still strong, and so we do not need to concede in the negotiation. But if the NATO reaction is very strong and NATO is well organized, even if the 32 countries try to coordinate 32 different countries, so in this case, NATO has some advantage in the negotiation against Russia. Of course, this is a negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. NATO's background is a strong point of Ukraine. So that's why the countries, many countries listing up, criticize Russia to show the strong stance because it will affect the negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. So just now, this is one kind of the poker game, diplomatic game, and as a cards, making the pressure, the drone penetration has happened, but at the same time, strong reaction proves that another card to deal with this provocation, that is a diplomatic negotiation with force.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Nagao, do stay with us. We have further developments from the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The Russian Defense Ministry has stated that Russia has taken control of Sosnivska in Ukraine's Dnipro-Peskov region. This has come days after Russia launched one of its biggest airstrikes over Kyiv using 810 drones and 13 missiles. The attacks intensified the tensions as both Russian and Ukrainian sides claim advancement at the front lines. The developments in the conflict zones have shadowed the prospects of meetings between Ukrainian and Russian leaders. Dr. Nagao, as things stand, of course, things on the front line have been intensifying while diplomatic negotiations seem to be slowing down. Do you think we're at any point near that day if or when President Putin and President Zelensky are going to sit down and have a bilateral meeting?
Without one kind of agreement, simply said, both sides want to end the war, it is very difficult to end the war. So that's why when will they want to end this battle? That is a matter. So in case of the Russia, if the Russia is winning, Russia want to continue the war. So if the Russia expects the situation will be deteriorate and Russia will lose, Russia try to end this military operation as soon as possible before they face a more difficult situation. In case of Ukraine, situation is same. So that's why this is a problem. Just now, Russia, even if gradually Russia is expanding territory, and if we try to see this situation as a long-term viewpoint, since the 2014, and gradually, step by step, Russia is expanding territory. This means that Russia has a will to continue the war instead of the ending war. So that's why in this situation, if Russia faces difficulty, of course, there's a possibility that Russia try to end. So what kind of difficulty Russia will face? Ukraine must prepare the counteroffensive and try to get back some territory from Russia. In this case, there is a possibility that temporarily Russia want to end the battle. But without this, Russia want to continue the war because they are expanding their territory through the military operation. But that is big matter. And so that's why currently Russia try to intensify the military operation because they believe they can win. And if the one kind of the forced ceasefire Russia need to accept has happened, still Russia want to intensify the military operation by the end of the negotiation because as much as possible they want to get more negotiation card to deal.
Yes, Dr. Nagao, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme, and thank you for taking the time. We now move on once again, and China has said that it firmly opposes any coercion after Mexico proposed a 50% duty on car imports from the Asian giant. The initiative, contained in a bill submitted by Mexico's government to Congress, seeks to assuage the US President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly urged trading partners to increase duties on China. Let's take a listen in to what Lin Jian, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, has to say.
中方始终倡导普惠包容的经济全球化，反对各种形式的单边主义、保护主义以及歧视性、排他性措施，坚决反对在他人胁迫下以各种名目对华设限，损害中方的正当权益。我们会根据实际情况坚决维护自身权益。中国和墨西哥同为全球南方重要成员，互利共赢是中墨经贸合作的本质特征。中方高度重视中墨关系发展，希望墨方同中方相向而行，共同推动世界经济复苏和全球贸易发展。
Meanwhile, the White House has said that the Chinese producers are abusing a free trade deal between the United States, Mexico and Canada to send goods northward over the Mexican border tariff-free. Okay, we are now joined by Sharad Kohli, who is an economist, and he joins us live from New Delhi. Sharad, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. It's a pleasure to have you. Sharad, what benefits would Mexico get of imposing these huge 50% duties on China? Does it have the economic power to do so, and how will it affect both sides?
Greetings, Thomas, to you and NewsX World viewers. I think this is the viral effect of what the US is doing, and I can even tell that, US is behind this because US is trying to use pressure tactics on the nations on which it can. It's got to say, we heard US speaking to the EU, asking them to impose tariffs on India and China for importing oil from Russia and so on and so forth. Now, I'm sure there is somebody else who's pulling the strings behind this, and this is at the behest of the US. And I find this very strange, Thomas. I remember speaking on your channel yesterday as well. I find that very strange because on one side, President Trump has been speaking about softening its stand vis-a-vis India. India and US are great friends, and all sorts of positive comments are coming. But then, in reality, as they say, actions speak louder than words. In reality, it is trying to pressurize other nations to impose tariffs. So I think, I hope this trade war doesn't become a global trade war, because right now this is a trade war initiated by America on the rest of the world. Now, if other countries start following suit, I think this will culminate into a global trade war, which will be very, very dangerous for the world economy. It will sink the world economy to recession. It will also strain the relations of some of very good friends, because as far as Mexico and Canada are concerned, vis-a-vis US, Thomas, both of them are the largest trade partners for the US. So US is in that position right now to pull up the strings from behind and pressurize these countries so that they impose tariffs on China or India, whether it is automotives. I won't be surprised if more items come to the fore. So I think this is a very dangerous trend which is developing. As an economist, I can tell you this is very, very dangerous. It can sink the global economy to supply chain problems. It can also sink the world economy to recession, Thomas.
Dr. Sharad Kohli, thank you very much for joining us. Pleasure to get your insight as always. We now move on once again, and we go over to South Asia, where Nepal's army will resume talks with, quote, Gen Z protesters to decide a new interim leader for the Himalayan nation. This comes after angry demonstrations that killed up to 34 people and forced the Prime Minister to resign. Meanwhile, both Kathmandu Mayor Belan Shah and former Chief Justice Shinshula Karki stepped aside, with the leadership of Nepal's interim government now being entrusted to engineer Kulman Gisling, the widely respected head of Nepal's electricity authority. Gisling has credited with ending nationwide load shedding and is regarded as a clean image and proven national figure who will now steer the country until fresh elections are held. We're now joined by Shruti Dasgupta. She's an international affairs expert and she joins us live from New Delhi. Shruti, your thought on the current situation in Nepal and the trustworthiness of these protesters to pick a leader until a new election and some of the choices that we have there.
Greetings, Thomas. Thank you so much for inviting me. I understand that Kulman Gisling is a very strong contender. I believe Sushila Karki and the Kathmandu mayor Balendra Shah that we've been hearing about are no longer standing on the front row for this particular selection. Kulman Gisling is seen as an apolitical person. He is not affiliated to a political party. He did step in 2018, I believe, as the Nepal Electricity Association, that particular works. He headed that as the director in 2018 and effectively pulled out Nepal from its 18-hour power cuts era. So he is looking like a figure who would probably be very pro democracy as well as pro-progress. So this is a progressive choice people are making, that somebody who can lead the nation out of its current slump of inflation as well as its unemployment. They're looking for a person who does not represent the various different political opponents that were sometimes in power and out of power with 13 governments from 2008 to now. So they are looking for stability as well as someone who will not have vested interest and will not play the same nepo-political game with them while they have been placed in the chair thanks to these protests. So I'm hoping that this man would facilitate earlier elections. But before that, I hope that the Gen Z are able to formulate new parties, pick fresh faces that would probably lead them into the new era of Nepal.
Yes, thank you very much, Shruti Dasgupta, for giving us your insight on that developing situation in Nepal, and we will, of course, bring you all updates that we get from that direction. We now move over to Europe, where speaking in Parliament, Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said the government is firmly opposed to the Israeli plan to occupy the city of Gaza and to any intention to expand Israeli settlements in the West Bank. He warned that such actions undermine international norms and seriously threaten the two-state solution, which Italy sees as the only realistic and lasting path to peace in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Let's listen in to what the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Antonio Tajani, had to say.
Voglio essere chiaro, quello che accade nella striscia è sempre più inaccettabile. Lo abbiamo ribadito in tutte le sedi e lo voglio ribadire anche qui in quest'Aula. Siamo fermamente contrari al piano israeliano di occupazione della città di Gaza e a ogni ipotesi di trasferimento forzato dei palestinesi dalla striscia. Così come condanniamo qualsiasi proposito di espansione degli insediamenti israeliani in Cisgiordania o di sua annessione. Hamas ha enormi responsabilità per aver scatenato questa terribile spirale di violenza con un insensato atto terroristico.
Tajani further added that expanding settlements in the West Bank makes that solution unviable and erodes the foundations of peace. He also confirmed that Italy will provide full diplomatic assistance to the 58 Italians, including some MPs, taking part in the global summit flotilla bound for Gaza. Moving on, this is what he added.
Seguiamo da vicino anche la vicenda della Global Summit Flottiglia. Ai 58 cittadini italiani che partecipano all'iniziativa garantiremo, come abbiamo voluto assicurare insieme al Presidente del Consiglio, assistenza diplomatica e consolare, come abbiamo sempre fatto per i cittadini italiani fermati in Israele per iniziative analoghe. Ho chiesto all'unità di crisi del Ministero di restare in stretto contatto con la portavoce italiana della flottiglia. La nostra ambasciata a Tel Aviv è stata attivata e, su mia istruzione, ha sensibilizzato le autorità israeliane sul rispetto dei diritti di tutti i connazionali presenti sulla flottiglia, fra cui anche alcuni parlamentari.
And finally, the Pentagon has announced a $14.2 million aid package to Lebanon's armed forces aimed at helping them dismantle weapons caches and military infrastructure of non-state groups, including Hezbollah. The assistance is designated to enhance the Army's ability to conduct patrols and safely dispose of unexploded ordnance and Hezbollah stockpiles, in line with the November 2024 ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. The Pentagon emphasized that the package supports the Trump administration's priority of countering Iranian-backed groups in the region and degrading Hezbollah's military capabilities. The announcement coincided with a televised speech by Hezbollah's deputy chief, Naim Qassem, who urged regional states to strengthen support for Palestinian resistance and warned against siding with Israel, saying such actions would stab the resistance in the back. Well, that is all that we have time for, but we will continue